Social Security is designed as an insurance system. It covers it's guaranteed income throughout your life, which is very good for the Latino community, which tends to live longer than other demographics, and especially
but it's not
women.
a savings plan.
No,
There's no account, the Jeff Cruz account, that's been building up and accruing interest.
That is correct. It's guaranteed income based on what I contributed, no matter how long I live. It's impossible to outlive it.
On my last check, where did my contributions go?
Your contributions would have gone into the trust fund. Some of it would have been used to pay out current beneficiaries, and then some percent would go to the trust fund to cover the coming baby boom generation that's about to retire.
What's the trust fund?
Yeah, the trust fund was built up because we knew in 1983, the last time Social Security was kind of in a crisis. They saw the baby boom generation coming, and they built up this trust fund, which is currently over $2 trillion, and it's in fact growing. It will get up to $4 trillion over the coming decade, and that's to cover this huge wave of retirees.
Because we were taking in more money than we were paying out in benefits, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Is the trust fund real? I guess that's one of the key questions here, because people who want to rebuild the system are talking about that money as if it's not real money. What is it?
Well, the trust fund, the federal government, the Treasury issues bonds to the trust fund and uses the money for government expenditures. I wanted to add to this notion of the sky is falling. I think since this program was created in 1935, it seems like almost every decade there's been a challenge in trying to fix this program and make it better and make it work. And I think that as we, in every decade henceforth, that we're going to have to make these adjustments. And this is, it's a system that can be fixed. But since day one, since 35 and 40, when we've started to pay out, you've had a certain segment of this population that has wanted to not have this to begin with and wanted to destroy the Social Security system. So I think it's an ongoing thing that, yes, it does need to be fixed as we go along, but it can be fixed is the important thing.
I just don't want to gloss over
the trust fund.
The trust fund, because I think it's one of the cornerstones of this debate. For 20 years or so, people have been paying more money into the system than has been paid out in benefits. Is that basically it?
1983, the people that were working, the program was in crisis then. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to send checks out within a matter of months. The program had just dissolved to the point where they were having some significant, that was a crisis. And so people sat down and said, all right, let's fix the immediate crisis, but also let's look into the horizon and figure out what we need to do looking forward. The baby boomers were already there. It's kind of amazing to us when we listen to people talking about, oh, there's these baby boomers and we don't know what we're going to do. Well, they were already in their 30s in 1983, okay? So everybody knew that there was this bubble of people that was going to start retiring right around now. And so they designed the changes in the system at the time to bring in more money than they knew they were going to need in benefits at the point, so that they could build up these surpluses in the trust fund so that they could draw them down as the boomers started retiring. I think of it as my kids' college fund, okay? I put the money in when they were still in high school, knowing that once they got to college, I was going to have to start drawing that money down. The fact that I'm now having to use it because they're in school isn't a huge flaw in the program. It was designed that way. And at the time, people sat down and said, okay, what's the safest thing that we can put the money in? At the time, the stock market was still up and down, as it is now. Nothing changes there. They looked for the safest, most reliable vehicle to put the money in because they knew it had to be here for the boomers. What's the safest vehicle even today to put your money in? United States Treasury bonds. And that's why they put the money in the bonds at the time. Those bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, just like the bonds that are in my 401k plan or your IRA, or that are being marketed today to the Chinese and the Japanese and whoever else is buying our debt.
But
Same instrument.
those bonds piled up.
Exactly.
And soon we're going to
Start redeeming them.
start redeeming them. So that means taking money out of current tax revenues and other forms of money flowing into the federal government and using that to pay the obligations of Social
It's
Security.
exchanging one form of borrowing for another. The federal government borrowed that money from you and from me and from Jeff and from everybody else that's paid into the system, and now it's time to pay it back. That's all that's happening. So instead of owing it to me, they're going to owe it to somebody else because now I need to have it back.
Right. But in 2020, let's say, when they sit down and make a plan for the federal government for the 2021 fiscal year, one of the big chunks of obligation for every dollar that comes into the system is going to be paying to redeem that money that we borrowed from previous payers of FICA. And that's money that's not going to get spent on defense, not going to get spent on building roads and schools, not going to get spent on paying the salaries of federal workers. It's going to get spent on buying back those bonds. I just want people to understand where money's coming from and where it's going.
But then it's going to go to individuals who are then going to turn around and buy things. They're going to buy food, they're going to buy cars, they're going to buy clothes for their children. And so it's not like they're going to buy medicine. A lot of a senior's Social Security check, almost 30% of the average Social Security check goes to paying part Medicare out-of-pocket costs.